With Hamnet releasing digitally just a day before it landed online, I decided to head to the cinema and experience what was being described as an immersive, heartbreaking journey on the big screen. And I'm so glad that I did. For 2 hours and 15 minutes, I was completely absorbed. From the very first frame, this film didn't just tell a story, it invited us to live inside it. We watched two strangers fall in love. We see that love tested by ambition, distance, and responsibility. And then we witness how one unimaginable tragedy gives birth to something that will outlive everyone involved. At its core, Hamnet is a meditation on grief, and more importantly, on how differently we grieve. Agnes and William both lose the same child, but they lose him in entirely different ways. Agnes is the one who raised their children day in and day out. While William chased his ambitions in London, she was at home, nurturing, protecting, and carrying the emotional weight of the household. So when Hamnet dies, she feels the loss not just as a mother, but as someone who was present for every breath he took. She watched him suffer. She heard him cry out in the night. She held him as life left his body. And in her eyes, William could never understand that. Not because he didn't love his son, but because he wasn't there. Agnes's grief is external. It consumes her. She clings to his bed. She refuses to leave the house where he was born. She cannot comprehend how the world continues to move forward when her entire world has collapsed. She is trapped inside grief. William, on the other hand, grieves internally. We see him walking through the diseased streets of London, surrounded by chaos and ambition, yet completely alone. There's a quiet guilt within him, the knowledge that he chose art, he chose opportunity, he chose absence, and that guilt lingers. But instead of collapsing under grief, he channels it. He writes. And that brings us to the most powerful idea in the entire film, the power of art. William doesn't tell Agnes he's writing a play about their son. He doesn't boast about his success. In fact, despite becoming wealthy and celebrated, he lives modestly, almost as if none of it matters, because the success cost him something irreplaceable. When we finally see Hamlet performed at the Globe Theatre, the film reaches its emotional crescendo. Agnes enters unsure, guarded, still wounded, but as the play unfolds, something shifts. She sees her son on that stage. She hears his name spoken. She watches a character fight, fall, and transcend, just as her son once dreamed of doing. And in that moment, art becomes a bridge between the living and the dead. It becomes a tribute, a vessel, a form of immortality. Hamlet was written between 1599 and 1601, and here we are, over 400 years later, still discussing it. If that isn't immortality, what is? Through unbearable loss, William created something eternal. Another striking symbol throughout the film is the hole in the heart of the forest. It appears again and again, dark, ominous, mysterious. To me, it represents the unknown, the afterlife, the space between worlds. When the hawk dies, it is laid to rest there. And at the end, after the play concludes, Hamnet walks into that darkness. But he doesn't leave immediately. It's as if he waits, as if he needs to know that his mother is going to be okay. Earlier in the film, William told him to be strong, to protect his sisters. And in death, he continues to protect his mother, not leaving until she's ready to let go. That final close-up of Agnes's face as grief softens into acceptance is one of the most powerful moments I've seen all year. Jessie Buckley delivers a performance that feels almost too real. You don't just watch her mourn, you mourn with her. And young Jacob Tremblay as Hamnet captures something so delicate, the innocence of a child who adored his father and simply wanted to be near him. Visually, the film is stunning. Earthy tones, muted palettes, a grounded, almost tactile atmosphere that pulls you into 16th century England. It's a slow burn, but intentionally so. The emotional crescendo arrives in the final act, and when it does, it lands perfectly. Hamnet is not just about death, it's about love,
It's about legacy. It's about the fragile truth that what is given can be taken away at any moment. And yet, even in loss, humans create meaning. We create connection. We create art. And sometimes, through that art, we find healing. This is one of the most moving films I've seen this year, a heartbreaking, beautiful reflection on grief and immortality. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend experiencing it for yourself, because some stories don't just entertain you, they stay with you, and Hamnet is one of them.